Across the Pond is back. We are back. It's comeback season. It's redemption season, but not for me, mainly for Avi, because he spent the entire transfer window being wrong about everything. But we're back. It's okay. We're back. We have a whole host of things to talk about. It's July 7th, Friday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are. Liverpool are on the cusp of preseason. And I sort of get this tingling sensation throughout my entire body, Avi. I don't know if you agree with me, but being on the cusp of preseason with a few signings already in the door, they're probably going to go to some like Austrian mountainous valley to go do preseason, and it's going to be very picturesque. I always enjoy this time of being a football supporter because you get to see the new signings and everything's very low stakes. There's a cautious sense of optimism in every fan base. I'm not speaking just for Liverpool fans here, but do you also sort of romanticize this preseason feeling that you have right now?
No,
You don't.
no.
Okay. What do you like about preseason?
I'm joking. No. You know what's funny about preseason is I remember a preseason when Fernando Torres walked through those doors at Liverpool, and we had snapped him up. Ryan Babel came, Yossi Benayoun came as well during that summer, and Fernando Torres hadn't scored a goal in his preseason games, Evan, right? And
Brutal.
and back then, social media wasn't big. Twitter was hardly ever used. I don't even think Twitter was actually alive back then, right? But there was forums, message boards on LFC.tv. I remember like vaguely now, and people would be saying like, "Oh, he hasn't scored in preseason. I'm worried about his form." And these Fernando Torres we're talking about, someone who had a very good World Cup in 2006. I remember scored a very good volley against Ukraine. Obviously, he was Atletico's captain, scoring goals, and then Aguero was there as well.
He had some pedigree. He had some pedigree at the time of signing.
Loads of pedigree, the potential and everything, right? And he hadn't scored a goal in preseason, and there was like some skeptics out there that are saying, "Oh, is he going to do it in the Premiership?" Lo and behold, he scores on his debut at Anfield against Chelsea. The first away game was against Villa away, where we won 2-1. But yeah, it's funny. I actually don't look forward. This is going to be a very weird thing to say, Evan. I actually don't look forward to the new signings. I look forward to the youngsters.
Yes.
Every season, like I'm looking forward to Bajicic coming back. Hopefully, put on a few pounds of muscle. Connor Bradley's, just to see where they're at. Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones. More of the youngsters, see where they're at and what the plan is for them going forward. But of course, how can there not be excitement with Dominik Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister, and hopefully another one or two walking through those doors before we jet off to Singapore?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of a given that you get to watch the big signings ball out. That's already a given. But for me, it's all about sort of that sleeper pick, as they say in America. Last summer, it was Stefan Bajcetic. That was 99% of the fan base's first exposure to him, and everyone's like, "Whoa, there's a player there." I wonder who that could be this season. Maybe for some people, it'll be Bobby Clark. I know he comes highly rated out of the academy. You're big on Jarrell Quansah. I'm not quite sure where his future lies, but I always like having that sort of burst onto the preseason scene academy graduate. And I'm just wondering who it'll be this season. But we have such an abundance of young talent in and around the first team now that it might just be the folks that we've become accustomed to. Like you said, Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I hope you are doing well. There's a lot to get through today because so much has happened since the last time Across the Pond was ponding, or whatever our verbiage is. So we've obviously
we were taking a break, even though I was doing shows in the weekly. We were taking a break, and I think you need that most. I think you need that a lot because I think 1 hour of me a week. I think that's enough. I think that's its peak. I don't think you can handle me too much. So yeah, I think you need a bit of rest as well. You need to give your brain a little bit of a break from blue chip.
Yeah, exactly. Two people, in a relationship, they need a break. At times, and me and Avi obviously have a very complicated relationship, which is going to come to the fore today because Harvey Elliott is on the agenda. He's not first on the agenda, but Harvey Elliott is on the agenda. And if you follow us on Twitter, you know that I am a self-described Harvey optimist, while Avi is a self-described Harvey skeptic. But we will discuss that later in the show. Avi, David
like,
Orr,
I like what you said there, that I'm a Harvey Elliott
skep-
skeptic and not like a denier or
yeah, you're not a hater. You know what I mean? Some people are haters. You are a skeptic, which means that you have why is that? You have a sort of a philosophical approach to being an idiot about Harvey Elliott. You know what I mean? So let's get into it. This time, 7 days ago, Abby, David Ornstein rocked our worlds with news that Liverpool liked Dominik Szoboszlai, but the road ahead is not likely. And then 12 hours later, he was like, well, actually, the road has changed in the last 12 hours, and it is likely. And then 2 days later, it was all sort of done and dusted. One of the biggest signings in our history, both in terms of caliber of player and financial outlay. We triggered a £60 million release clause. That's a whole lot of money up front. Now, everything that's already been said about Dominik Szoboszlai has been said, really just a statistical monster. And I'm going to bring up some of the stats. We're not going to get too bogged down. But as you can see, he's a penetrative, instigative player. This is incisive passes completed and shot creating actions in the Bundesliga. He leads Joshua Kimmich. That's some elite company he exists in there. Here he is compared to progressive actions and defensive actions in the final third in the Premier League. So admittedly, this is his Bundesliga data next to Premier League players. But as you can see, he's in that yellow sort of above average elite zone next to exciting youngsters like Elise, Elliott, Martin Odegaard, players in that ilk. So Szoboszlai, here's my question for you.
Can you put the last one back? Can you put the last one back?
Yeah.
The last slide. And
Absolutely.
you know me, I'm not big on slides, and I'm just looking at something. Okay, De Bruyne. It's nice to see that James Ward-Prowse made an appearance on there. I just wanted to double check.
Yeah,
that.
but
his name was the.
Well below the, as you can see, Avi, you see where the two dotted lines in the middle meet. That's the league average. So he's below the league average in both metrics, unfortunately.
Okay. Interesting.
Spoke a little too soon. What's up? Sheen's in the house. Katan's in the house. Asim's in the house. Asim says, "Smile, Avi. It's fine. It is fine." Absolutely.
I'm smiling. Just a quick one from Anfield lad. Oh, you gonna tell us the big guest this show, or keep it a surprise? Now we will be revealing the guest midway through 30 to 35 minutes in.
Yeah, we will reveal the guest right after I tell you guys.
I don't know if this is your burner, Evan, but someone's saying that you're the GOAT. He's the GOAT he's the GOAT of graphics and data. Yes. Apart from everything else, yeah.
Thank you. I try. I do my best. So obviously everything that's said about Szoboszlai has already been said. Avi, it's been done and dusted for what feels like an eternity now, but it's really only been a few days. Here's my question for you. Szoboszlai, 60 million pounds. That is a significant outlay of capital, and that makes 2 release clauses that Liverpool have activated this window already. Do you think Liverpool have a third release clause in them, or is that just a step too far financially? Are Liverpool now sort of saying, whatever our next move is, whether that's Lavia, whether that's a center back, it needs to be structured, the typical structuring amortized over 4 or 5 years? Is that sort of the approach now? Because obviously 2 release clauses, that's a lot of money up front for one window.
It is a lot of money, and I don't want to be the one that predicts what happens next in the transfer market, especially this season with Liverpool. I'm 2-0. I'm 0-2. Is that what we say?
0-2.
0-2. My bad. You're good at this kind of stuff. So I'm 0-2 right now. So I don't want to predict what happens. I mean, can I see us? I don't know who else is there with the release clause. I'm
alluding mainly to Inacio, who has been mentioned by plenty of football analysts as someone that Liverpool are potentially looking at. There's a release clause there, and according to Portuguese reports, he's pausing on signing a new deal that would inevitably double that release clause. It's just one of those things where I feel like if he was available for the release clause, for the money outlined in the release clause, but we could structure it, I think he would already be sort of like on his way. But I keep seeing people pointing out, potential next moves for Liverpool, both in midfield and defense, what they have release clauses. And I just wonder if that's a step too far. It's just an awful lot of money up front. Liverpool have spent 95 million pounds, a vast majority of which has been up front. That's a whole lot of money where your mouth is, especially Liverpool, a club that is run like a business. Liverpool are not a billionaire's toy or anything like that. Liverpool are run like a business, and 95 million pounds up front is a lot of money.
It's money that had to be spent, Evan. We know that.
No,
So
it's a necessity. Absolutely.
So without, I don't want to emphasize too much on financial this season with FSG because it's money that had to be spent. Yes, we run like a business, but when we were winning the big ones, when we were winning the Premier League, the Champions League, we weren't investing as much. This season, they're making, whether people want to say they're making up for it now and they on borrowed lost time, whatever. They're spending the money now. That's all that I care about. We're spending money on quality. The two additions that we've made, absolute game changers for our team. Absolute game changers. McAllister gets in most of the Premier League teams, most teams in Europe. Dom is potentially a blockbuster player in the coming years. He's 22 years old. I forget that. You mentioned it to me as well. He's the same age as Curtis Jones. And in terms of development, you see where Dom is and Curtis is, it will give Curtis and the likes of Curtis, Harvey Elliott, a kick up the backside. As long as Jordan Henderson too, and we've seen that with Jordan Henderson in the gym, putting the work in while he's on holiday. Trent's coming back sooner, from his vacation because he wants to be integrated as soon as possible in preseason. But in terms of going back, do we see? I don't think we're looking at Inacio, Evan. I believe that the interest is real, and what people are saying in the journalists, I feel that. I don't think he's our number one target. I think it really is Levi Colwill, and I think the longer this drags on, the longer that Levi Colwill, if he does want to move to Liverpool and digs his heels in, I think we could probably press ahead. How much? I mean, people are saying 65, 70 million. He's only played a year or two at top level with Brighton and stuff. And I know he had a bit of an injury as well, but he's so talented. The kid is so talented, so calm, composed. I saw him in the under-21 against Israel. Such a top player. Has that, and I don't want to put the markers on him because he is a young individual still learning his craft. He's got that aura about him. And very few defenders, come along where you think, yeah, he's got it. The Sol Campbells, the Rio Ferdinands, the Virgil van Dijks, in the modern era. He's got something about him, which I think, okay, if Inacio is available for 45, but Levi Colwill may be available for 65, I'm going for the latter. I'm going for Levi Colwill.
He's also that modern center back in the sense that he's somewhere between a left back and a center back. Yeah. And I think the player that is the quintessential definition of that is Lucas Hernandez, formerly of Bayern Munich. I think he just got to move somewhere. So I think Colwill is sort of a player in that mold. Well, Colwill in the last week has been one of the primarily linked names, and then the other one has of course been Romeo Lavia, who's being courted by not only Liverpool but Chelsea and Arsenal as well. The rumored price, or I guess the official line from Southampton, is 50 million. Will get the job done to get Romeo Lavia out of the Championship and back into the Premier League. That is sort of based upon the benchmark of Manchester City having a 40 million pound buyback clause next summer. And the other insinuation on top of that is that they could probably activate that next summer. Now, that's a whole lot of, in my opinion, that's a whole lot of assuming from Southampton. 12 months from now, not only could Man City have no need to make such a move in their midfield, but is Romeo Lavia gonna up his stocks in the Championship in the next 12 months? Not particularly. I'm sure
I think that's where Man City has shot themselves in the foot. I don't think I didn't expect Southampton to go down. I thought Hassan Hutel, yes, he gets off to a poor start, but he always gets it together mid-season. But they did go down. I think that's now shot themselves, not City maybe so much in the foot, but I think they realize that the kid has raw potential. And we saw glimpses of it this season. Yes, there was games where he didn't shine, but we can all see what a talent Romeo Lavia is. But no, I'll let you carry on. I just wanted to say that on Man City.
Absolutely. So that is, and the official line from Liverpool in response has been, one that I think has been wildly misinterpreted. It's been that Liverpool think that's a bit steep, as do Chelsea and Arsenal, the other two interested teams. And Liverpool are waiting to see sort of what happens in terms of outgoings. Now, a lot of people sort of in typical fashion have taken that public line from the club, which I believe came from James Pearce at The Athletic, as Liverpool need to sell to buy, yada, yada, yada. Liverpool are out of money, this, that, and the other. That has never been specified. That was not specified in James Pearce's writing. That was not specified in other quotes from reputable journalists. I see that more as Liverpool now have, for lack of a better word, a shit ton of midfielders. They have the whole spectrum. They have a bunch of like project midfielders, players 23 and younger, and they have a lot of older midfielders on higher wages. So for me, it's now a sense of Liverpool want to see how much they can get for potentially midfielders that could be on their way out the door. And obviously
it's bloated, isn't it, right now?
It is bloated, and we're going to get into that.
It was bloated last season, but it was bloated with players who were injured last season. But
it was bloated with players who were just, making up the numbers in training sessions. They were non-factors on the pitch. Before we get into the bloated midfield discussion, I got a little ahead of myself there. I just want to bring in some stats on Romeo Lavia. Now, here is a really interesting sort of stat breakdown, because as you can see, Abby, there's a mix of profiles in there. On one hand, you have offensive-minded players like Elise and Elliott and Wilfred Gnonto, I believe I'm saying that correctly, from Leeds. And then on the other hand, you see guys like Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia, Kamara, Onana. They're also up there as well. This is offensive duels won with a successful dribble percentage. So offensive duels won is when a defender makes a challenge for the ball, and the offensive player wins that sort of 50-50 with them and continues on what they were doing. And then on the bottom, successful dribble percentage, pretty self-explanatory. So this is essentially players who are fantastic at retaining the ball and beating their man under pressure. And it's really cool because, like I said, you have this mix of attacking and then more defensive-minded players. And that's why, stats are so interesting. This isn't a stat that is biased towards offense or defense as stats can be. So obviously you have well-known Liverpool targets like Caicedo in there. Lavia is right up there as well. And the reason I'm bringing this up, other than obviously I like to see Harvey Elliott doing well, but Lavia is incredibly hard to get the ball off of. And when people try to get the ball off of him, he more than often bulldozes his way through it, throws his body around, rolls off the defender, and creates some separation through his own skill on the ball. And who was the pinnacle of this stat, Abby, was a certain Gini Wijnaldum. If you take Gini Wijnaldum's data and these metrics from his ventures in 1819 and 1920, he's right up there. He's even higher than Harvey Elliott. So Romeo Lavia, what I see in him, obviously, is the athleticism of Wijnaldum, but it's also the skill of knowing where to throw your body around, to sort of roll off of somebody, to be press resistant. And who else? And another player who has been linked with Liverpool who had this ability as well is Manu Kone. Obviously, very, very sad to see that he got a bit of a prohibiting injury at the under 21 Euros. Just another thing to bring up here. As you can see, Lavia isn't super towards the top here.
Can you go back to the slide? The previous one.
This one.
Yeah. And I want you to do something. Yeah. Tilt your head. Tilt your head more and look at the word offensive.
Oh yeah, I know there's a typo. That's been established. That's been established on Twitter already. Offensive duels won. Offensive. Anyways, moving on. Lavia here, as you can see, this is mainly something I'm doing to show Declan Rice and Rodri in comparison. But as you can see, Lavia here, he recovers the ball quite a bit. He's right there next to Bruno Guimaraes. He's not quite a progressive carrying ball. Like Lavia is very prone to he wins the ball back, and then he's more than happy to distribute to James Ward-Prowse immediately, distribute to Sulemana, distribute to whoever's a more efficient passer or efficient this, that, or the other. But Lavia is right up there. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's only 6 players in the league that have more ball recoveries per 90 than 19-year-old Romeo Lavia. So a very effective player. He's not a stat monster, Avi, because he unfortunately he's hindered by Southampton's performances. Obviously a 20th place team that's going to sit back against a ton of teams. Your stats are going to be prohibited. The passing isn't extraordinary and the chance creation, this, that, or the other. But he definitely seems to have a range of passing on him. Now, I've just been a motor mouth for the last 5 minutes. Tell me what you like about Romeo Lavia and the X factor he can bring to Liverpool's midfield, because there are a few.
His youth, I watched this lad play for Manchester City, funnily enough, in the under-21s against Liverpool, and he looked bigger than most, and we had James Balaguese playing that game, but he made him look, he made him look a little bit amateurish. The whole midfield, amateur. I believe Leighton Clarkson was part of that team as well, someone that I'd rate. And he stood head and shoulders above all. And I said, I think City, City's, we kind of come hard on them when they spend big money, but they've got a great system there. You look at Rico Henry, the little Rico kid, left back for them.
Rico Lewis.
Rico Lewis, there you go.
Yeah.
And there's a few youngsters that are coming through that are getting sold for like 10, 15 million. Don't know the legitimacy of these deals, but hey, we'll run with it. But Romeo Lavia back then, I said, you know what? And I tweeted this last year. I said, don't be surprised once his Southampton move happened. I said, don't be surprised if we go in for him next year, because he looks an absolute beast, a brute of a player. And he's 19 years old. I didn't even know how young he was, Evan, until recently, that he's still 19 years old. He has shades of, players that we've been linked with before. A Shuhamani, a Kamavinga. Have I said that right? Have I today? Shuhamani?
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Good job. 16 months and counting, but good job.
I had to do it for you.
Thanks,
he's got that potential. People are aware of him. 50 million, yes, it is a lot of money for a team that's gone down, and a player that had a bit of inconsistencies. Let's not let's not beat around the bush. There was, which is normal for a 19-year-old, but the potential is there. The potential is scary, and I think in 18 months' time we will rule the decision not to sign him, whether it's 50, whether it's 60, because he's got that ceiling. He definitely has that ceiling. He's definitely got that sort of intelligence to take over Fabinho in the coming year or so. Once Fabinho, not gets ushered out, but maybe Fabinho next season at the age of 30 might want something new, a bit like Bobby, and say, I've done 5 years at Liverpool. It's time for me to move on. Lavia is definitely one that I can see as the heir to that throne of that number 6 for sure.
Yeah, and perhaps my favorite fact about Romeo Lavia is that although we've just praised City for just being a very efficiently run team in terms of recruitment and developing youngsters and all of that, he actually wasn't a discovery of City's sort of scouting department. He was handpicked by Pep Guardiola. Kevin De Bruyne, I believe, was running some sort of youth tournament.
Anderlecht or something.
And Romeo Lavia was playing for the Anderlecht youth team at this tournament in Belgium, and Guardiola came at KDB's invitation, saw Romeo Lavia, and handpicked him. So obviously that's a huge ticket of validation from one of the greatest coaches of all time. And obviously, when you're at City's level, you can't take on every single project, especially when you have the world's best 6 in his prime, just balling in and out, and that's Rodri. So obviously there's a severe blockage of the pathway at City for Romeo Lavia. So just because they sold him does not mean that they didn't think he was good enough. Obviously they got a pretty respectable buyback clause on him as well. But
do you think
just
on Romeo Lavia, like say it's 40-50, but do you think because it's so publicly out there that we've sort of, and journalists have put our names there, high reliable journalists, I might add, have put our name in the hat for Romeo Lavia. Do you think that he's just a decoy for someone or something bigger, or someone just along those same lines, but just a different player altogether. Like, they've mentioned the Gravenberchers. Real Madrid did reveal this week they have to sell a big star. Now we know that Tchouaméni has been, maybe homesick or just unsettled in Spain. We don't know the full facts, but does it? I don't know. Is there a deal elsewhere, and we're just using Romeo Lavia's name, but we're trying to explore what options there? And like you said yesterday on the phone, so many players have kind of all of a sudden become available that we don't want to miss out. Say we do pull the trigger on Lavia, but in hindsight, going forward, there might be a player that, oh shit, we missed the boat on him. As someone who's a little bit more established with the experience.
So let's assume, for example, that Liverpool have everything sorted out with Lavia. They can pull the trigger now, but with the transfer window only being halfway done, if there are obviously probably players above Lavia on our short list just in terms of priority, but they're not available for whatever reason. You don't want to play your cards too early, because if you go and just cave to Southampton's demands, not only does it make you look a bit soft, but you also prohibit yourself from moving for a truly elite player. Someone like Tchouaméni becomes available. It's well known Liverpool haven't walked away from that fully. Guys like Barella, who's admired. Inter obviously have very strict stance on him so far, but should he become available, you don't want to look back and say, shit, we spent 50 million pounds on a project. A guy who looks like he could be an elite player very soon. Don't get me wrong, and a player I would be thrilled to sign. But you have to be careful. You have to know when to put the brakes on the transfer window. Sit back and observe. Not everything needs a reaction type of vibe. So I think, and also I think it's reflective of just how good our business has been so far. Klopp has gotten the two guys he could probably see starting week in, week out for Liverpool, and McAllister and Szoboszlai. Guys who you would expect when up to speed will be guaranteed starters for Liverpool. So it's imperative that they're present for the start of preseason. Where someone like Lavia, who's going to be bedded in over time anyways, it's perhaps not as prohibitive if you get him on July 31st, for example, or you get him on August 15th. Or whatever it is. I think he's the type of player that Liverpool can take their time with, whereas guys who are expected to come in and start right away, almost guys like McAllister and Szoboszlai, you want them there as soon as possible. So it makes sense when you think about it. But Avi, my question to you, if Lavia is not to be pursued because of the price, if we walk away, if we think we're being had by Southampton, alternatives. Now, you didn't tell me this specifically, but I took a guess of who your alternative would be. It's that lad on the left. Is that fair to say? Is that who you would go to first?
I think who I'd go. I don't know whether Tchouaméni is classified as an alternative.
Well, let's assume Tchouaméni's staying put, because that's obviously not,
Yeah. For me, I love this lad, Florentino Luis. And again, you'd have to believe that scouts have seen him because he does meet a lot of metrics. I'm sure you can do a graphical data sheet for us, Evan, sometime this week on Florentino Luis. Young, a little bit raw, but he's a ball runner. He spreads his legs. He's everywhere. He's like a spider, Young player of the year, I believe, in the Portuguese league. A talented boy. 60 million was the talk of I don't know whether it was a release clause as such, but that was the bounty on his head. But reports now coming from various Portuguese journalists and outlets are saying 35 gets him. And if he's available, he would be my pick as an alternative. But make no mistake about it, Romeo Lavia is a player that I really like. But Florentino Luis is, I would keep just, I'd keep him, I just keep a close eye on him as well.
Strange career path, Florentino Luis so far. Starts out at Sporting, is getting linked to like Madrid and PSG and Bayern. Makes a weird loan move to Monaco, doesn't work out. Yeah. And then he goes to rivals Benfica, and now he's sort of doing it all over again. Young Player of the Year. So all of that has already happened in his career, and he just won Young Player of the Year, I believe. That's a strange career path. It almost seems like he's getting a second chance at the Wonder Kid arc, if that makes sense. So it's a unique trip around Europe that he's done so far. But at only 21, 22, plenty can still happen for him in his career. My only concern about him is he good enough on the ball? Obviously, when you're playing as a defensive pivot partner for Trent, that's not really your job. You can just pass the ball 5 yards to the right and let the generational talent of Trent Alexander-Arnold do the rest. I'm really interested in this lad over on the right. Avi, do you know who this is?
Weaver.
Yes,
Have I said that right?
great. Yeah, I don't know. Mats Weaver. I don't know. An integral part in Feyenoord's Eredivisie winning season. Obviously, Benfica just took their star player and captain Orkun Kokcu and slapped an 80 million pound release clause on him as well. But Mats Weaver is there as well. He had some good performances for the Netherlands U21s. He's big, he's tall, he's lanky, he's pretty athletic. He's got a good range of passing. And most importantly, he satisfies a lot of my statistical itches. You know what I mean? The numbers behind Mats Weaver are very, very good. And apparently there's a lot of great deals to be had coming out of the Eredivisie. Yeah. As we've seen, and it's well known that Klopp and Linders love to shop there. But obviously, there's plenty of evidence to say that Klopp and Linders love to shop in Portugal as well.
And just if I may, there's people asking a few questions. I have highlighted them on paired shares from Torino and another, Dutch player. We will address them as well as we get closer to the show, and we'll do a reveal of our mystery guest in literally 4 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, 4 to 5 minutes. We'll be getting that soon. Avi, how about we address these questions and then we'll do the reveal and then we'll carry on with the show. I'll take this one first. I thought Per Schuurs had a brilliant game against Liverpool a few years ago for Ajax in the Champions League. I remember watching him and I was like, wow, it's like De Ligt never left. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's quick, he's big, he's strong. Kind of looks like Matthijs de Ligt too. These tall, athletic, blonde dudes that Ajax are just building in a laboratory somewhere. I do like Per Schuurs. I didn't think it was the worst move to go to Torino. I mean, he goes to one of Europe's top 5 leagues. Definitely someone who's caught my eye before. Is he a left-sided center back in a back 3? I really don't know. I can't honestly say that. This is a good comment from Cyrex. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I'd take Weaver over Lavia. Better age profile and much better in the air. I hear that, Cyrex, and I don't fully disagree. The one thing I will caveat that is by saying I'm not a guy who thinks that your holding midfielder, your defensive-minded 6 needs to be good in the air. I am not one of those guys. And we also have the luxury of having Van Dijk and Konate and Matip, these tall, tree trunk players right behind. So I think guys like Conte and Makelele kind of just blew that out of the water, because I don't even think Makelele was 6 foot. Was he? Or Essien?
Essien was, I think, 5'8". He's as tall as me.
Yeah. So three of the top 5 holding midfielders of the last 30 years haven't been 6 foot.
Mascherano.
Mascherano. I think if you are good in the air and you are tall, great. But I don't think it's a prerequisite for being a good 6 in any system. If I'm being quite honest. Let's get through. Oh, Ben says we need to table a bid to Southampton, and if they reject, move to the next straight away. This has been good logic. I would say the same applies to Gravenberch, because the whole thing with Ryan Gravenberch is like, oh, okay, here's this cool wonder kid profile where it didn't work out for him in Germany. If we can get him for a reasonable bid at a reasonable time, then cool, let's take a punt on him. But Ryan Gravenberch is not a guy worth waiting the entire transfer window for. If Bayern don't want to play ball, if they're not willing to come to the table, then fuck off, we move on. Lavia, I think his stocks are a little higher than Gravenberch. I'm sure Ben knows that. But yes, it's the sort of thing where it's like, do I want us to just sit next to the phone waiting for Southampton to call until August 31st? No, I don't really want to. Like I said before, it is the type of thing where you can sign him later in the window and it won't be prohibitive to your squad planning. But like Ben says, he's also perhaps not high enough on a certain tier list to justify waiting for Southampton to get back to us or whatever it is. Yeah, of course, Cyrex. Please keep contributing. We love questions. So Avi, with
There's just a question. I think it was Dazo who said what we think of Rio Hatate of Celtic. I love my Japanese players. I have a strong affiliation with
oh,
the
that's right.
people
Yeah,
from
you do.
Japan. But yeah, very intricate player, but very similar to like a Taki Minamino and Nakamura, who's absolutely brilliant as well at Celtic. I think they've got 3-4, but I can see them all leaving. I think Rio Hatate has been linked with a move to Saudi already. I think since Ange, I'm not going to pronounce his second name, who's gone to Spurs, the manager. I think he was very important for these players that came over from Asia, and he integrated them well into that Celtic team. Very exciting team to watch as well during the last 2-3 years. But yeah, I don't see us getting Rio Hatate, but definitely, I think we'll definitely be on the lookout for another sort of Minamino type or Asian, player from that sort of region.
Mm-hmm.
For other than football reasons too,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
club.
Avi, I'm just getting our guest reveal graphics ready. If you want to just take it away with another one of the questions in the comments, and we can
There's
reveal our
one.
mystery guest right after.
I think Moby alluded to this on Monday. Was it Evan's thoughts on Lukeba for a LCB option, a left centre back option?
He comes extremely highly rated. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know too much about him, but the way people talk about him, people who watch much more of him than I have, it's definitely with an air of this guy could be special. I mean, France, Avi, just how many competitive back fours does the nation of France have? I think Lukeba is French, right? Am I correct in
Yep,
assuming
and
that?
I think he is, and it's a conveyor belt centre backs. I mean, look, we've gone of the days of Upamecano now, Konate, Evan and Dicker. Those were sort of like one sort of batch of French defenders, sort of 18 months ago, that were like hot property. Even before then, it was Rafael Varane before he left for Real Madrid from Lens. I remember us going in for him. Every team was going in for him. And over the years, it's been a steady line. And now you're seeing another sort of batch of French players, not just centre backs, but look at the midfield region. Kone, the Camavingas, the Chouamainis, Enzo
Thuram, yeah,
Lafise, Kefren Churam, that famous name. So yeah, it's a conveyor belt right now in France, and you believe that they would be pretty much favorites for the next World Cup.
yeah, absolutely, and a bit disappointing for them to crash out the way they did, Avi.
To Ukraine, a very good performance from Ukraine, though, no doubt about
absolutely,
it. They were brilliant.
Guys like Mudryk, who definitely has a point to prove next season, if Chelsea hope to go back to any semblance of functionality. But I believe it is time to talk about mystery guests. Avi, what do you think? It's very enigmatic here. Personally, I think he looks a little bit like you. This mystery guest. Yeah, it could be you. It could be me.
I thought it was me in the back. I thought it was me in the background.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's
and
that's
these are one of
the.
I just want to come on this poster. This was back in the day of like WWE. They would put posters up of this wrestler's joining from another organization. Who's it gonna be? Back then we used to have like home telephones. No, forget about mobile phones. So it was like it was dramatized and all that. But yeah, it's exciting. We've had so many shouts. James Pierce, but he's already been on the show. We had one guy saying, "Is it Mike Tyson? Is it the Undertaker?" Some wild shouts. But I don't know. I will say what I think. Do you want me to confirm it, or Evan?
No, absolutely. I'll do a little drum roll for you. Are you ready?
There you go.
Can you hear that? I'm doing the drum roll. Can you hear it?
And it will be, and I'll say it. I'll say it in a sentence. Dominica Deremo, Ela Benevento, Fabrizio Romano will be joining us on Sunday's show. He will be joining us on Sunday's show. Fabrizio Romano has kindly lent us some time on Sunday, and just fire away your questions in the comments. We've got a few questions for him. We will probe him. Don't worry about that. The chip will make sure he gets definitive answers from him as much as we can. And yeah, we're looking forward to it, Evan, with Fabrizio. It'll be interesting. We have had him on the show previously last summer. last transfer window, I think in January. My apologies. And we've decided to get him on again. And we will have another guest in a month or so as well, but I can't say that because it's early days. But it's gonna that's gonna be a big one.
The cool thing about having Fabrizio on this time around, Avi, is that Liverpool have actually given us and him stuff to talk about. You know,
Yeah.
Liverpool are actually active in the market. Liverpool are actually throwing around, you know, 100+ million pounds. Liverpool are actually doing what appears to be a dramatic rebuild, and Fabrizio has been right on top of it, alongside the talented Mr. Ornstein as well. And as Thomas says, you know, you are a prober. Avi,
Oh
you've
well,
always
it's a
been.
chip. It's chip against Fab on Sunday, so it will be interesting.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it really is a WWE type of showdown. But folks, bookmark it, block it off, cancel your plans with your family, ignore your significant others, because Fabrizio Romano is coming on to Born and Red on Sunday evening.
And just want to just my lips are sealed. Let's put it that way to this comment. My lips are absolutely sealed.
Oh, here we go.
And just
ITK stuff all over again.
this is on people who are coming on, I guess. Just to confirm, though, this show on Sunday will be going off at 7:45 p.m. So it is an earlier time because of Fabrizio and his commitments that he has with Sky Sports Italia and various TV networks. We have got him in a little bit early, so that will be a blockbuster show. We've got a little bit of time with him, and then from there we'll go into our normal Red Zone show. So 7:45 p.m. Make sure you lot have liked and subscribed. I want to get us to 5K as soon as possible. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And Evan, just a quick big ups. Sorry, just a quick big up. Quasi Bow TV. Go and like and subscribe to his TV channel. If you can subscribe to us, you can subscribe to him. Big up to my Bay Area people. Us, we've got to get together soon. Hopefully for a Liverpool game, somewhere in Haight at the Liverpool pub, Kazars or somewhere.
Yeah,
Kazar
pub right across from Golden Gate Park.
We've got to get together. Big shouts for Fabrizio, Delvin Jones, big boy, my mate Del Boy. Evening, gents. Hope you are all well. What's the percentage chance to sign Caldwell this summer? Hope we are getting him in. He is perfectly what we needed, left centre back, in my opinion. Thanks for the super chat, Delvin.
I think this percentage, Avi, is all dependent on whether or not Levi Colwell is willing to kick up a fuss to get a move that he may or may not want. He's been at Chelsea. He's an academy kid. Is he going to kick up a fuss against his academy club? I don't know. I'd say the percentages are pretty low. If he starts to kick up a fuss, I think it could start to become about 50-50. As of right now, I'd say like 2 to 5%, maybe. I don't know.
I think it all depends on his talks with Pochettino. And Pochettino's he's great with he's done a remarkable job at Spurs. He was great with youngsters. The progression of Son, Kane, and all the other players that he had around him. I think it depends on those the talks next week that will take place between Levi Colwell and Pochettino. We'll get a little bit more of an indication of where it's at, but Chelsea will chuck all the money that they can at him. I think they do want to keep him an integral part of the squad. So I think the chances are a little bit slim at the moment, Delwyn. I would say about 20% right now.
A great player.
That's being nice a little bit.
Yeah. Avi, to round off the show, we alluded to it earlier. Is there a bloated midfield at Liverpool right now? Now, I've put Lavia in there, not because I think he's nailed on to sign, but just because I think we'll get another young midfielder. So Lavia is just a placeholder either for himself or something.
No place for Tyler Morton?
Not established. Avi, we have 9. Depending if you count Trent as an out and out midfield option, and you assume that Lavia or someone like Lavia will sign, that's a lot of midfielders, isn't it? It's getting a bit bloated. And obviously there's been rumors that one of the older heads could leave. Thiago's been rumored with a move to the Middle East, as has Fabinho. It becomes difficult to find a way to field your best 11, your best midfield, and not block the pathway of a Lavia, of a Bajcetic, of a Harvey Elliott, of a Curtis Jones. Even Szoboszlai in his age group falls into that category as well. And this is sort of the basis I believe, of your Harvey Elliott skepticism. Before we get into what we disagree about, let's just talk about what we agree on in terms of Harvey Elliott. Obviously, the signing of McAllister and Szoboszlai does not make his route into the first team any clearer. He got a ton of minutes last season. If guys like Keita and Thiago had been more available, can we honestly say he would have gotten those minutes anyway? Maybe not. So it becomes difficult to find a way to maximize guys like Bajcetic, Harvey. That's just a lot of bodies, isn't it?
It is a lot of bodies. And when we're talking about a bloated midfield, I don't see Harvey Elliott in that midfield department, in that three, or as a two. And when we play it, when we've got the ball as a 3-2-2-3, if that's the assumption that we're going into next season, I don't see him at the 8. In an advanced 8, yes, but you look at the pecking order, you look at, Dom and Mac will be ahead of him. Curtis Jones right now is ahead of him. Jordan Henderson will probably get picked ahead of him. But obviously Jordan can play as the 6 or the 8 if, we're that desperate. We've had injuries. Harvey Elliott, I see him, and look, I'm not knocking the player. I see him on the right-hand side as cover for Salah. I don't think Cade Gordon, I know he's reported back. He's fit. His hip abductor injury that he's been suffering from and another illness for the last 18 months. I know he's coming back and reporting, but there's a separate program for him. Ben Doak, where does that leave him? I think a loan would be great for Ben Doak, and then keep Harvey on that right-hand side against Salah. And the notion that he can't go on the outside, he doesn't need to. He's got close control. He can keep on that left-hand side and cut in at every opportunity with Dom and Trent as the overlappers. But with Harvey Elliott, Evan, look, I want him to make it. Don't get me mistake. Don't make no mistake. Nothing more would please me to see one of our own, like a British player, make it, like a Trent Alexander-Arnold, like Curtis Jones is doing. I want him to push forward, but he needs to bring in the numbers as well. The stats, the goals. I get the graphical charts suggest he's a good dribbler. He's top of the charts alongside a Fernandes and De Bruyne, but the numbers don't show it. And I want to see that. That's all I want to see. If he does that, then no question he has a place in this team and squad. But right now, I don't see it. A loan move, would it be right for Harvey Elliott? Maybe. He's got to assess himself, right, Evan? 6 Europa League games, he'll start those. That's a given for me anyway. That's 6 games up until the next stage, and you probably get a few other games after that as well. He can be trusted. We've seen Klopp chuck him in a League Cup final and an FA Cup final again against Chelsea, and he chucked him in there. No issues there. Domestic cup games, that's a 50-50 whether we have a good run or a bad run. We got knocked out first round last season to Man City, or second round. We got to the final of the season previous on the both domestic. So, we don't know how many games there. League appearances, the 5 sub rule. Yes, he will get game time, 10 maybe here, 15 here. And he may be chucked on to start a game as well. But is that enough for a 20-year-old coming into his 21st birthday? This, I think, in the next few months, or maybe even next year. But as a 20 to 21-year-old, he needs to be playing consistently week in, week out. Without Champions League football right now, I don't see he gets that.
And he's also gotten a full season of like first team Premier League football. You know what I mean? So he's going to see that as like the floor of what he can expect. He's gotten a taste of what it's like to make 25, 30 plus appearances in the Premier League a season. He's going to, and anything less than that is obviously going to be a disappointment to him on a personal level. Avi, I know you're not big on, and I know you're not a big data guy. You're an eye test viewer. And I am not a purely data guy over an eye test viewer. I think it's all about finding a balance. That's how the best people scout. I just want to clarify something. When I post stuff like this, this is not to say that Harvey Elliott is as good as Martin Odegaard or Bruno Fernandes or Kevin De Bruyne. It's to show you that the underlying parts of the game are there. The toolkit is established. The trust with the manager exists. And the idea is that based on this, you don't throw in the towel regarding Harvey Elliott, because if the idea is that you stick with it, these underlying things can all add up into the raw output that you want. Ideally, what you want from Harvey Elliott is 7 assists and 7 goals a season, at least, right? Something in that, something
And to
respectable
be
like
fair,
that.
and to be fair, I'm gonna let you carry on because you made a really good point, which alludes me as well back into this. And these are supportive of Harvey Elliott. Where was De Bruyne at 20? Where was Bruno Fernandes at 20? I think Bruno Fernandes was at Novara at 20 or Sampdoria.
Yeah,
A weird move. Martin Odegaard was still finding his feet at like 2-3 years ago at Real Sociedad. Moved to Real Madrid as a 15-year-old. Didn't work out there for obvious reasons. You know, they were stockpiling youngsters like they're doing now. It didn't work out for him. Now he's found his feet at Arsenal. That I do agree with. And agreeing with everything you're saying, we have to put a little bit of context. He is a lot younger than Bruno and Kevin De Bruyne. Sorry, carry on, Evan.
No, all good, all good. It is worth pointing out his ascension into the first team has been faster than 99.9% of players ever. When you think about it, he's in that top 0.1% or whatever you want to call it. So it's also something I wrote about in my article, which I dropped about 2 or 3 weeks ago on my Substack. Go to my Twitter bio for that. But I feel like he's been scapegoated by the fan base because of the timing of when he comes in. Keep in mind, Avi, we go and sign him, and Liverpool media makes a big fuss over his signing. And it's in that summer of 2019, fresh off of a Champions League win. We go out and we sign him, and we signed Vandenberg as well. And people sort of use that as a stick to beat him and the owners with, like, oh, we won the Champions League, we signed 2 teenagers for a combined total of 6 million or whatever. Yep. And I think people hold that against Elliott. And if you look at these numbers, if I posted this, and let's say for argument's sake, I included Curtis Jones in there as well, except Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott were playing at Leipzig and Dortmund, people would be queuing up for Liverpool to spend 40-50 million on them, bring them to the Premier League. Absolutely queuing up. You know, you look at Curtis Jones, and I'm going to apply Curtis to this argument as well, because I think he's in a somewhat similar position. If you look at Curtis Jones's highlights the other day, the U21's man of the match performance. Yeah, if he was playing for Borussia Mönchengladbach, Leipzig, or Dortmund, or any of these teams, people would be screaming for Liverpool to sign him. Absolutely screaming for Liverpool to sign him. So basically what I'm trying to say is we have reason to be patient with Harvey Elliott, but it's also a difficult balance, because as we try to find a way to win, to compete with Man City, you can only have X amount of projects, right, contributing. Like you need win now players. Yeah. You know, in that Liverpool saw that in Alexis McAllister. He's 24. He's about to be 25. He's going to enter his prime. He's going to help us win right now. Szoboszlai is like right over that hump of like inexperienced, and he's going to start developing at a rapid pace, so he could help you win right now. And then you have to find a way to not block Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, Bajcetic, Lavia if you go and get a player like that.
Hence he's gone.
Exactly. And you know, you can't take everybody with you. Yeah.
Again, projection, right? If we were competing with Arsenal, the Chelseas, the Manchester Uniteds, the Spurs, Harvey Elliott stays at Liverpool to prove himself, and we allow him that time. As fans, we have to allow him that time. You know, another year, 2 years. Because of the juggernaut and the fair force that Manchester City right now and the way they're winning, right? How we've got to be sharp, game in, game out. How we know that 90 plus points may not still win you the league. That's how absurd the league has become. That 90 plus points doesn't win you it anymore. You know, it used to be 78 could get you the league, or 82, 83, 84 points wins you the league. Now it's 90 plus, and you're still not guaranteed.
You have to be like 99% plus perfect. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, keep in mind, Liverpool lost 1 game in 18-19 to Man City by 1 goal and 6 millimeters of the ball. That was 97 points was not good enough. Yeah. So, and that's the standard. So having raw projects in your team while you're trying to win, it's a bit of a tough ask. Moving away from Elliott and just talking about data in general, Avi, I'm going to politely challenge you to be a little more open-minded about it.
I think we behaved ourselves pretty well there.
No, we have. We put on a little show on Twitter because that's what people like to see. But I just want to casually remind you, like, we can't laud praise on Edwards and his team of analysts and the Brighton model of recruitment and Moneyball and all the fantastic things that Liverpool and Brighton have pioneered in recent years. We can't laud praise on that and then turn our noses up at data when it doesn't suit things that we don't want to see. So you as an Elliott skeptic, when data is presented to you that shows he's actually a very efficient and effective player, I would challenge you not to turn your nose up at data, because
No, and I certainly can't dismiss. I can't dismiss what you're putting there because that's factual. That is factual.
Mhm.
Just as when I say, okay, could he have done more last season? Yes. Could he have produced more assists and goals? Yes. 5 goals last season in all competitions. That's not a bad return. I'm not going to knock that return. He scored some wonder goals as well against Wolves, Ajax. I remember Rangers. He scored some good goals. I want to see more though. I want to see more productivity. And these suggest that he has got it. The proof is in the pudding in the stats. My theory is, and this is how I leave it back to you, Evan. If he was performing at this level like he did last season for a West Ham, at Brentford, would we be going in for him? I'm not too sure myself. If you say yes, that's fine. You say yes, I say no, that's totally fine. He doesn't shine to me like if he was performing as a mid-level team, I wouldn't be thinking, yeah, you know what, we've got to get this kid because I feel that City would get him or an Arsenal could get him. Let's get him in early. He hasn't shown me that yet. But obviously, it's patience. And I'm hoping that we give him enough. If he's going to stay, we give him ample game time. And he does have that little bit more responsibility that Klopp can. And Klopp has shown he has trusted him. Even in the season, even the quad attempt when he was fit, before that Leeds injury, Klopp was trusting him in big games. Chelsea at home, he was performing well. Last season, we saw it against United in that 7-0. He was pivotal. I want to see more of that on a consistent basis, week in, week out. Curtis Jones, last 12 games of the season, we had beginning to see that. And Elliott was kind of phased out. I want Elliott to use that as fire, as determination, as motivation that, listen, I have got a place in this squad. He's a great member to have with the team. We've seen it, the pictures, how he gets scared with these little things that trigger him off. Great lad, it seems, right? And he's matured a lot from the few videos that he released on how
seems like he has a really top mentality.
He has, and
improve,
you know what, that bodes well, and that shows, and I'm sure that shows to the coaches that he's got to fight for it. And if he has, I have no problems. I want him to succeed.
Absolutely, and I think we all want to succeed. And I have no problem being wrong about Harvey Elliott if it's for the benefit of Liverpool Football Club, and I'm sure you could say the same on the opposite side of the aisle. If it's for the benefit of Liverpool, who cares? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an amazing show. Just keep in mind, we are shooting now for 5K. Love to get up to 5K. 4K was a great milestone. We have a fantastic guest coming on Sunday as well. I am currently working on a bit of a game show type thing, something inspired by Jeopardy. If there's any Jeopardy or trivia fans in the house, that's kind of what my next big project is. I'm going to try to bring that to you at some point this summer, but it's going to be a bit of a tough one. I don't know if the average football IQ is high enough on the show to really meet the standard, but we will see. We absolutely will see. Folks, please, like I said, like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Avi, I'm actually going to leave you with one last question, okay? Because I
had a question for you as well.
Go for it.
Next player in, just say a name.
Oh, just like gut feeling. Can I just say a position, or do I have to say a player?
A player. What do you mean position? Say a position. Who cares about position? Just say the player.
I just think
you're gonna say RCM, or you're gonna make up a position.
Yeah. Okay. Too much smoke around Lavia for him not to be the obvious choice. What about you?
Tchouaméni.
Wow. Bold claim. Not the first time. Blue chip.
And that's not a 0 and 3. That's just a gut feeling. That's not an ITK thing.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Your reputation precedes you. Is all I'm gonna say. Folks, it's been a miraculous show. Let us know who you think will be the next body in the comments.
You said you had a question for me. You said you're gonna leave me with a question.
You stole my question. That's what I was gonna ask you.
I read your mind.
Yeah. See, yeah. Great minds think alike. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been the return of Across the Pond. You can expect us a lot more regularly between now and the start of the season. We will see you all next time.